Welcome to the A Monday Moment with Dr. Mal podcast, where each week I, Dr. Mal, share life lessons and motivation to kickstart your Monday. Whether you're starting your day or winding down, join me or me and my future guest for a burst of positivity and a fresh perspective. Let's make Mondays meaningful together. Greetings and happy Monday, everyone. I'm your host, Dr. Mallory D. McCoy, and welcome to this week's episode of A Monday Moment with Dr. Mal. As always, may this broadcast bring you what you need in the present moment. May my light exude positivity and kindness, and may my love be extended to all who could use a little extra. Ashe. Let's seize the moment. Today's show is one of a series of shows titled Business Queens of Kansas City. It's Women's History Month, all day, every day. And for me, since I moved through life as a Black woman, it's important to me. I'm also an entrepreneur, and I just happen to have a few businesses up my sleeve, including Bell's Garden. The whole mission of Bell's Garden is centered around Black girls and women. I've literally made Black girls and women my business. Plus, this podcast primarily streams on the Alive Podcast Network, the first Black-owned, woman-owned podcast network in the nation. I also support Black-owned, women-owned businesses when I can. Y'all need to know how serious I am about supporting Black women and their entrepreneurship. So I'm dedicating my March shows to highlighting Black-owned, women-owned businesses here in the Kansas City metro area. The women I've interviewed for this series are powerhouses and incredible businesswomen. I hope that you were able to learn something from Lenora last week because, baby, she was dropping those dimes. And I can't wait for you to hear this episode because I have personally learned something from every person that I have interviewed. So before we get into this episode, you know, I love me a good definition, and I'm team #facts over feelings. So let's get into it. I am dropping facts today about the fashion design industry because that is what I'll be talking about with our guest. First off, fashion design is a multi-billion-dollar global phenomenon. Think of it as one giant runway show that never ends. Trends shift faster than you could say haute couture, so designers need a combination of creativity and business savvy to stay in the game. It's not all glitz and glamour, though. Designers work at warp speed, juggling tasks like selecting fabrics, sketching new pieces, and keeping an eye on manufacturing costs. Inspiration can come from literally anywhere: street style, art exhibits, nature, or even random memes on social media. The industry's job market is vast with all kinds of specialized roles: pattern makers, textile experts, stylists, merchandisers, you name it. And let's not forget the influencers and brand ambassadors who make sure those new designs land on everybody's feed. Sustainability has been a major buzzword lately, and we actually talk about it during this episode. It's all about using eco-friendly fabrics, reducing waste, and being more thoughtful about supply chains. Consumers are getting choosier. Pick me. If a brand isn't at least trying to go green, it risks turning off a big chunk of shoppers. And I can personally speak to that because that's me. Lastly, technology is shaking things up. We're talking about 3D printing, virtual runway shows, and AI-driven trend forecasting. Yep, the future of fashion design is looking both futuristic and fabulous, baby. So there you have it. 2 snaps and a twirl. A quick spin through the stylish universe of fashion design. Consider yourself runway ready. All guest podcasts are titled What They Want You to Know, and my intention is to dive deep into the minds of experts, thought leaders, and fascinating individuals to uncover the one thing they truly want you to know about their area of expertise. I intend to unapologetically and unequivocally center the voices of people from powerful groups targeted by oppression. However, if there are other community members who can interject on the topic, they'll be invited to the cookout too. This week's guest is Stephanie McIntosh, the visionary force behind the brand Yet Luxxe, a resort wear brand redefining elegance and inclusivity. A Kansas City native, she blends Midwestern charm with global inspiration, creating effortlessly glamorous pieces that celebrate diversity. With a deep commitment to sustainability, Yet Luxxe focuses on ethical sourcing and eco friendly practices. Stephanie continues to push fashion boundaries, inviting everyone to embrace self expression and modern luxury. Stephanie also happens to be one of my very closest friends and longtime friends, and I'm honored that we get to do life together. There's so much synchronicity in our personal life that we are certainly a shoulder to lean on for each other. And I'm even more excited and honored to wear a Yet Luxxe piece when I'm honored with a community award at the Lift Her Up conference on March 15th. You already know our conversation was incredible. It's like talking to a friend because I am. So I can't wait for you to listen. Grab a notebook and get ready to take some notes. Here's what we talked about. Well, welcome to the podcast. I'm glad to finally get you in the studio. I want to start by having you introduce yourself formally to the audience.
Okay, I am Stephanie McIntosh, founder and designer of Yet Luxxe Resort Wear brand. We were established in 2023, where I debuted my first collection under Yet Luxxe at Kansas City Fashion Week in spring of 23. And it has been uphill since there. So I am excited to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about resort wear specifically? What does that entail?
Yeah, so resort wear can be lounge wear, it can be swimwear, it could be upscale cruise wear. So really you want to think about relaxed but fun, really. So whenever you go on a vacation and you're like, I just need something light and airy and cute. That's what you think about when you think about resort wear. So I created resort wear because I like luxury, but I also like comfort. And so why not put the two things together and incorporate them to feel beautiful wherever you are. So you don't necessarily have to be on the beach. You can be in the Midwest in the cozy cabin and have on a lounge suit and still be resort.
Well, I actually, you're so intuitive because I literally was going to ask you about, because we are in the Midwest, we're in Kansas City, Missouri. How does being in Kansas City, Missouri influence your designs?
That's an interesting question. So, being here, like we always think of, dang, I want to go to a beach. I want to go to a beach. But a lot of times, like for me, I'm always cold. So, I'm always going to throw in like a little half sleeve or a long sleeve, even if it's some beach wear or something that's going to be a little more modest and not just cheeks out when you're in your swimsuit. So I think that's where my influence in the Midwest comes from. It's just I know it's going to be 4 seasons in one day, so why not incorporate that in most of my looks?
I love that because it's true. We are in 4 seasons in one day very, very often, actually. You can't put clothes away because you're going to wear something from all seasons.
Absolutely.
So, what destinations do you feel inspire your designs most? Real or dream?
A lot of Caribbean destinations. For my current collection right now, it has been Greece. Santorini, for some reason, has been like the colors, just how vivid everything is, has influenced this current collection. But really, whenever I see something, like it doesn't even have to be a location, it can be a photo or it could be a piece of art that will influence something that I want to create.
That's beautiful. I am enamored with other people's mind when they are able to think in a different creative way than myself because pick me, I am not a fashion designer, will never be a fashion designer, wrap my brain around that type of creativity. But it's beautiful that you're able to see things and be like, I can create a masterpiece. I know that you actually do go into thrift stores and you change outfits to match you. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, upcycling. Yes. So I do a lot of upcycling. Like, I can see a shirt, it could be a men's shirt, but I just like the color or the pattern, and it can be a little too wide. And I'm like, okay, it's a little big, but I can make a skirt out of this, like, and just kind of create something that I want to wear for me personally in my wardrobe. Or I can even just see like a YouTube video. I'm like, oh, that's real cute. And then find something and put my own spin on it, from whatever they created. So it just really depends on how I feel, like, or what I see in the thrift store. Because when you go thrifting, you can't just look for a specific thing; you'll never find it. So you have to look for a variety of things.
Well, and me and you are BFFs, but we do not connect there. Because I'd be like, I need a yellow sweater that looks like this, and I'm going to go look for that specific thing. But you like, no. But I love that because that's also a part of your brand is sustainability. So how do you upcycle other things and make it a part of your collection and being ethical intertwined with the work that you do?
Yeah, so I don't necessarily upcycle for my collection, but what I do is if I find like a vintage fabric, or let's say it's a dead stock fabric, which is a fabric that was overproduced and so they're selling it in bulk, I will purchase that just to keep things at a landfill in that way. And then also I try to use less waste. So the way that I'm cutting the pattern out, where I'm not wasting a lot of fabric. I've also looked into fabric recycling for those pieces of things that I cannot use from my cut fabrics, which I did find a spot finally. So now I can start recycling my fabrics. And then also, just making sure that I'm using the fabrics that are sustainable in general. So for my resort wear, I do like to use natural fabrics. So like cottons, linens, silks, which are a little on the expensive side, but it all goes to a good place. So, and then having that luxury name too, I feel like that those things are a luxury because it is natural and it feels good on your skin. So that is some of the ways I try and stay sustainable, because those are also things that can be recycled.
I love that. So as I was thinking, I'm like, so the dream is here. We have Yet Luxxe, it's been established, but what was the spark before the dream? Like, how did we get here? And when
Oh,
did we start doing this?
well, I've always like designed, period, or created things, but it's always been like a dream to be a designer. Like even in college, like going to UMKC, I graduated from UMKC, but in the midst of me in UMKC, I actually left and went to Kansas City Art Institute for fashion design, which was very expensive, which made me go back to UMKC. So that kind of put a little bit of a damper in the dream, but I'm like, I already know how to sew, so how can I continue to learn on my own? Like what avenues can I use? And then who can I take some classes with to like learn some standardized things. And so that kind of sparked a journey during the whole quarantine COVID thing. I started taking classes with my now mentor, Miss Pamela Lucas, who owns an Academy of Pattern Making and Draping. And I just kind of learned how to formally make patterns because I was making them just kind of on a whim with newspaper or whatever type of paper that I could find. And I'm like, I don't know if this is right, but it looked right. So we gonna work with it. But after taking a few classes, I'm like, okay, this actually makes sense. So now I can make my own patterns like the legit way. And just that kind of propelled me to be like, okay, you can really do this because you are doing it. So why not just go ahead and take that leap and do what you've always wanted to do? So, and then having that support system there too, always helpful.
Well, and there's a whole message in your story, and I just want to draw attention to it because Stephanie, when she was just speaking, made it seem like the timeline was a short timeline, but we met at UMKC in 2000, let's see, six. So,
Yeah.
so you were at UMKC in 2003, 2006, and you during 2020 just started taking classes and moving into your dream. So the dream, although you had the dream at some point in your life, you didn't let the dream die. It was just
Right.
deferred.
Mm-hmm.
And it's never too late to follow your dreams. That's what I heard from what you're saying. You never let the dream die, but it was some things that you had to do. There was some life that you had to live.
Absolutely.
And in that window of time, you still never let your dream go. You were able to visualize yourself being in the space that you are right now. So
Absolutely.
that's a message for not just me, but for everybody, is if you have a dream, it doesn't have to actualize itself when you have it. There can be some time in between time. You might have to go away and do something else, but keep the dream, keep hope, keep hope alive. I love that so much. So in your fashion entrepreneurship journey, what has been the most rewarding part of it?
It's so many. I mean, just really seeing your creation like after you completed it from, concept idea to actually seeing it like on a person, not just a mannequin, but actually on a person, being able to put it on stage for a large audience. This is my fourth fashion show that's coming up in 2 weeks for Omaha Fashion Week. So this will be the second time I did Omaha Fashion Week, which is the fourth largest fashion production in the US. So, yeah, so that in itself is like, I know I'm good enough to be on that stage, so where else can I go
What's
when
the
it comes
limit?
to
There
that?
are none. It's
Exactly.
only the limit
So,
that we create in our mind.
mhm.
So yes, you are bomb.com, good enough to be on that stage and all the other stages that.
Everyone else, right? So, I'm just trying to get there, one step at a time.
For sure. Now, I know that this road to here has not been without challenges. If someone is looking to inject themselves into the fashion industry, another woman specifically, what advice would you give them starting new?
Network. Honestly, the fashion community, especially here in Kansas City, is small. Like a lot of people know a lot of people, but sometimes it doesn't feel like a community. So definitely network, find who you feel is for you, find that tribe for you. Take classes, even if you already know how to do it. A lot of people go to those classes to one, see who's in the class. Like, I might meet somebody in the class. You may actually learn something, even though you feel like you already know. And then you can also find other resources for you personally, for your brand. You just never know who you may meet that can project you into other realms of your idea of being in the industry. So definitely network, put yourself out there. Don't be afraid. I am definitely an introvert, but if I know that I want something or need to talk to somebody or just have a feeling like, oh, I'm gonna just talk to them, like I'm gonna do it. So definitely put yourself out there. I feel like in fashion or just being a creative in general, you kind of have to wear your heart on your sleeve for some sake and just open yourself up to those endless possibilities. So don't come in like thinking, oh, I can't do that, but definitely be open to the people around you.
I love that for sure, because we are going to be forced into doing a better job of building community. And so, what better way, whether regardless of our personality traits, we're going to have to rely on each other because there's some systems that are being broken down in real time that we can't rely on anymore.
Hmm.
I think that's beautiful. What keeps you going when entrepreneurship gets tough?
Fear. Like, I don't like to fail. Failure is a necessity. So even if I do feel like it's a failure, it's really not. It's like, okay, this is a way for you to just regroup, reconstruct, and keep pushing. Like, because the next idea may be even better. Like I was telling you before we started recording, like, I have a whole outfit I need to reconstruct because It's ugly. It is ugly. So, it's not a failure. Like, I can use the top part of it and just recreate the bottom part of the garment. But at the same time, I think that pressure there is what like pushes me to think outside of my normal box of, okay, what's it, something else I can do? Like, how can I flip this? Or what do you see that could be incorporated, or what is it? Like, I'm always looking for that what. I may not ever find it, because even when I'm done, I'm like, okay, what can be done next? But that, I think that is really what keeps me going, is always looking for that next level.
Well, and like you said, fear of failure. You don't want to fail, so you got to keep it moving.
Exactly, exactly.
It's necessary. Okay, so I asked my guests the same two questions, and so I'm going to ask you, out of everything that we talked about, and not even things that we've talked about, just life in general, what's one thing you want us to know? And it can literally be about anything.
Stay positive. I think, especially now, we're in a time where just everything is so in your face. So I wouldn't even say depressive, but it's just like, ugh, again, like, yeah. So I just feel like when you are always positive, there's always going to be positive that's going to come to you and going to flow out of you. So I always look for that bright light. It's not always easy to do. Um, but I feel like if you get into that dark space, there's always something light that you can think about to pull you out of it, to bring that positivity back to you. So just stay positive.
Hold on to the light. And
Yeah.
like you said, there is, there's a fine line between being positive and then being toxic positive.
Mm,
It's not, this life ain't that. This ain't sunshine and lollipops. And I personally lived in a sunshine and lollipop sort of thing, and people are like, that's artificial. No, I really, I really do think the best of all situations, regardless of, if they're not most ideal. And even more so, my spiritual path, that helped me more to see or to try to find bright lights or hold on to the light in
mhm.
all the crazy. And you and I have had conversations personally, so I'm still trying to
Yes,
hold on to the when it's super chaotic and things aren't going the way that you think.
absolutely.
Okay, the next prompt that I always ask my guest is, I used to think, but now I know. So, what did you used to think, but now you know?
Where you want me to start? I before like really putting myself out, because oh, I'm not a vulnerable person. Like, it is very hard for me to be vulnerable. And so I always thought, like, I'm just not that. That's not me. That's not me. But honestly, that is me through and through. Like, I am emotional. I am like, yeah, hard shell on the outside, gooey, mushy on the inside, for sure. And I think it just took me a long time to really realize, like, it's okay to be vulnerable, because that's what you are. It doesn't matter if you don't like to show it or not. In creating your art, you're going to display your vulnerability in general. And I think just really trying to tap more into that portion of me and putting it on display, has really shaped some of my creativity and myself just in general in my day to day. So, yeah, I am vulnerable, I guess.
And you used to think that you weren't vulnerable. A lot,
And not at all.
yeah, a lot of us are in imposter syndrome about who we are.
Mm-hmm.
It's because, like you said earlier, is that fear of, well, what if I do put myself out there like that, and then insert all the things that you think that could happen in you putting yourself out there like that. But being a creator and in a creative space, it lends itself to vulnerability. Like you have no choice. Your thought process, your creativity is literally like your fingerprint. It's unique to you. So, however you choose to put it out there, I mean, even now where we have social media, everybody's attached to the baby computers that we have in our hands,
Mm-hmm.
in our pockets, I mean, you're even in a more vulnerable space because anybody feels like they can say anything about your creativity and what you do. And then they can say it
Right.
anonymously. And words, no matter in written form or spoken form, attach to the soul. And so that's all difficult. It's all true, but like you said, it's when we choose to be vulnerable, being compassionate, and understanding all those other skills grow because you're able to open yourself up to one skill. It's kind of like the great balancing of it. So that's beautiful. I'm glad that you have moved into a vulnerable space. And I feel like through your vulnerability, it's actually helped us, our relationship, our friendship to grow.
Absolutely.
We are able to be vulnerable together. And you had traditionally been just a listening friend. Like, I'm going to listen
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to inject when is something that I'm willing to be open about. But now it's like, we are able to have that connection. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I recognize your work in that. Okay, so this has been fun. I'm so glad that you're here. Before we go, can you tell us what's next for Yet Luxxe and where can we find you online so we can make sure to get our resort wear?
Yeah. So, of course, Omaha Fashion Week, February the 20th. So 2 weeks. I'm excited, nervous at the same time. You can find me at yetluxxe.com, and that's Lux with two X's. Um, so you can order on there. There's some things on there that you can order currently and look at some previous collections as well. On all social media platforms, it's Yet Luxxe. So you can find me on Facebook, Instagram as well, and TikTok.
Yes, it's Yet YET Lux LUXXE Yet
Yes.
Lux.com and all social media platforms to check out what she has available. And one more thing, your lines are inclusive, right? And accessible to all.
Yes, absolutely.
And you also create custom pieces.
I do create custom pieces.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So you can email me if you want something custom, and then we can do consultations and go from there.
And then, so if they don't choose to invest in resort wear, how else can my listeners support you?
You can always share anything that I post. You can refer people to me. You can donate if you want to. So any avenue, really. If you see me out in public, say, "Hey, I seen your stuff." But anyway, really is a support. I mean, a like and a share is a big support, even if you can't monetarily pay for anything like that. Like, that is the best way to get word of mouth for other people to know who I am.
And I should just add, as a BFF, I'm proud whenever she's wearing something of Yet Luxxe and someone goes, "That's cute. Where did you find that?" And then she's
And
like,
I made it.
and then they're like, "You made it. Where can I get it?" So she wears her things too. She is a walking advertisement herself a lot of times, and people love the looks. So check her out, Yet Luxxe, all social media platforms and online. Thank you so much for being here. Well, that's all for this week. I'm forever honored that you tuned in. Thank you so much for listening. A special thanks to Stephanie, who was willing to share her experience on a public platform such as this. I'm humbled that she chose to spend time with me, and I'm humbled that she chooses me as her friend because I love her so much. Next week, I'm continuing my Business Queens of KC series with another business queen. We are leaving the fashion design business world and we are going to enter the world of fitness. Next week's business queen is Jessica Ward Cannon, founder and CEO of the Lotus Room. You don't want to miss it. Until then, love and peace to all of you.
Have the best week.
Thank you for tuning in for a Monday Moment with Dr. Mal, now proudly a part of the Alive Podcast Network. You can find this show on the Live Podcast Network website and app, and you can find this podcast streaming across your favorite podcast streaming platforms. If you love to have the visual, you can tune into my YouTube channel, When Mallory Lives, to see this show and catch up on all my shows from the beginning.